You know, Franklin hasn't really been on my radar all that much over the years. I mean, just a little bit here and there. So I used to coach the golf team at Westfield High School, and we had the state championship in Franklin when we made it. It was at the Legends Golf Course, and I played the state amateur there. So you know, it's been on my radar a little bit, but here over the past few years, I've had clients that kind of just seem to sprinkle in at least a few more that Franklin becomes the place that they move to. So it started to hit my radar a little bit more, and it's starting to hit other people's radar just a little bit more. So over the past few years, definitely found myself here a little bit more and more, just like I am this morning. And actually they've got a little strawberry festival going on, and it is crazy down here in downtown Franklin. So this has become something that I'm not surprised when people mention Franklin anymore. And we're gonna go through 5 reasons here in this video about maybe it's a place you should consider, and just some of the reasons that you should think about. And then one at the end as to how it could potentially be a negative. It isn't necessarily a negative for every single person, but it's certainly something I think everybody should think about because it could turn into that. We'll get into that at the end of the video, so stay tuned. Everybody, I'm Jason Compton with Living in Indianapolis. If it's your first time here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome to you as well. We just go through all the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis and get into Indianapolis itself and try to find the details and the personalities of each of those cities. We've also got our new Exploration app. Oh, that's a loud truck. That is available now if you want to chat about that, but it helps with getting to know a place like this, like Franklin or Carmel or maybe Fishers or Greenwood, you name it, any of those cities and towns that surround Indianapolis, they're in there, and it can help give you places to go so you can determine how you feel about the personality of each of those cities and try to find your best fit. All right, so number 1, I would think that a big positive for Franklin is that it has a lot of personality, and it has a small town vibe. Even though it's a city, it's actually a city, and it's pretty similar to the size of the city that I live in Greenfield, Indiana. And Greenfield actually shares a border with Indianapolis, so it's just to the east of it. But Franklin is a little further south, does not share a border with Indianapolis, so it has a little bit more of that separation. And it's roughly a little over 26,000 people. So to say it's a super small town is probably an exaggeration because it technically is a city. But to say that it's a big city, of course, that would be a wild exaggeration. It's not a big city at all. It's a very, very small city, but it really does have a lot of personality. This downtown area of Franklin is, I mean, it is just so, so cool. So we're gonna walk around a little bit. Now there's just a ton of people around, so it'll seem a little bit crowded. I'm gonna cross the street here. Like this square right now, they've got this little strawberry festival going on. The time that this is being shot, school's out, so there's a lot of kids around. Super nice park just right off to the west of where I'm standing or walking. And I mean, just a splash pad, just super cool spot. They've got a stage there, they have live music. So lots and lots, just dropped my sunglasses. Lots and lots of charm and personality that you're gonna find really in, I would say, in not every single small town or small city, but it would be the kind of charm that you're gonna find whenever you read about charm and culture and things like that in small cities. And usually when somebody says, I want a small city or a small town, and I don't want anything big about it. I want no big city. I don't want the big city life. I don't want the urban. This is the kind of thing that they're probably picturing. That could be an exaggeration. That might be too positive for Franklin. But as far as the small cities and towns go around Indianapolis, Franklin's the one that probably has the most of any of that. And then one of the other things that helps, other than this downtown area, which is actually really big, for a city of just 26,000 or so people, or a little more than that, is Franklin College is here. And you can go off to the east over here and just walk right to the campus. It's not a big college, but it's one that's fairly well known in Indiana. Maybe not wherever you're watching this video from, but it's maybe a little over 1,000 students. So not big, but the campus itself is really super charming, really nice, a lot of mature trees. It's really pretty. So that helps to up the vibe here in this part of Franklin. So if you're looking for that cultural heart, to make sure that you have it in the small city or town that you're living in, then I mean, it's gonna be hard to find a place that matches, and certainly hard to find one that beats what you have here in Franklin. Number 2 is affordability. So given that it's not really technically part of the Indianapolis Metro, even though some will say it is, some will say it's not, I think it's just far enough away to where it's probably not, although the gap between Franklin and to the north, Indianapolis, it's filling in. So you've got New Whiteland and Whiteland, you've got Greenwood, and that whole complex, that whole area is pretty populated. And we're talking about including Greenwood and Bargersville, Whiteland, New Whiteland, all of those, you're going north of 80,000 people. And when you drive down this way, you'll see a lot of open space, but sprinkling in some of that filling. And it's a little more affordable because you're further out. And you can definitely find through, especially this area, Old Franklin, some much older homes, historic homes, I mean, just tons and tons of charm. But that always, I mean, charm isn't always, I'd say, a super great thing, because you could get into a home that needs a heck of a lot of work. But if that's your thing and you want a much older home, a more than 100-year-old home, then you're already expecting that. You know that that's going to happen, and you're going to need to put some work into that place if it hasn't been done already. But you're going to find them more affordable. And new construction, definitely find it in Franklin. I mean, we're talking more than 26,000 people, and the population here is growing, but it's not exploding. And if you look back maybe 10 years or so, there were over 20,000 people. So the growth in 10 years, just adding a few thousand people, that's not tremendous. But it's now starting to catch on. But this is still at a point where things are relatively affordable. If you compare this to places, of course, on the north side, like in Carmel or Fishers, Westfield, the exact same house, you move it to Franklin, it's going to be cheaper. But if you look at the west side, like in Avon and Plainfield and Brownsburg, those places are getting more expensive. They're not wildly expensive, and they're not as expensive as you have on the north side of Indianapolis, but they're more expensive than what you find in Franklin. And the proximity to Indianapolis is part of that. You're just so close in. So Franklin is far enough away that where affordability is still there, but I think in 10 or 20 years, it's definitely going to begin catching up, because like I said, that space between Indy and Franklin is really beginning to fill in. So it brings me to point number 3. It's proximity. So there are some places, in fact, Greenfield, I've heard many people say that it's the last small city or small town outside of Indianapolis that Indy hasn't swallowed up. And I've said that before, and people have been all over me about how they're in different counties, and I mean, just all these things. Indianapolis is not expanding its borders. That's not what I mean by that. It's just that Indy has grown, and the suburbs, the cities around it have grown because of that, and also because those cities and suburbs are popular, and they're places that people want to be. So it's not that way. It's just that there's no space between those cities and Indianapolis anymore. Very little. And Greenfield still has just a little bit of that space, just a little, but it's really filling in between the two, and they, like I said, share a border anyway. So that's going to happen. But here, Franklin doesn't share a border with Indianapolis, yet the expansion is still coming this way to the south. However, the proximity to Indianapolis from Franklin is still not that bad. But now I'll say not that bad is a matter of opinion. But let's give an example of where I live in Greenfield. So if we want to go to the airport, it takes us, the international airport, Indiana International Airport, which is on the southwest side of Indianapolis, it's going to take us probably 35 to 40 minutes or so to get there. And that would be with no traffic. So we just get on 70 and just burn our way over there without stopping. 35, 40 minutes. That's pretty much what you've got no matter what, just because you can't get over the mileage. Now, if from where I'm standing right now, put it in GPS here, and bring it up, downtown Franklin, in an international airport, go straight up I-65, it's 35 minutes right now. 35 minutes to the airport. That's not too bad. And you want to get into downtown Indianapolis, something like that, it's going to take you maybe 40-ish minutes. That depends on traffic. But the proximity still to Indianapolis is really quite good. If you wanted to go to the north side, though, that's going to take you a whole lot longer. Like you wanted to go to a place in Carmel or something like that, you're just not going to do that very often. That's going to easily take you over an hour. And again, whether that's bad for you or good for you, that's up to you. But around here, an hour drive is a long drive. In fact, a 30-minute commute is kind of that border of getting ridiculous and reasonable. If you're from Los Angeles or something, an hour to you is kind of a joke. Perfectly fine. But around here, 30 minutes seems to be that cutoff in everybody's head. So the proximity is still reasonable from Franklin. And the next thing, and this may or may not be important to you, but I think it all should always be part of the conversation, is that the schools here are highly rated and they're desirable. So Franklin Community Schools, the high school is still relatively small. It's maybe 1,700 or so students. And when you compare that to a lot of the size of the schools around Indianapolis, like in Carmel or Fishers or Westfield or Brownsburg, Avon, Plainfield, those are all really big schools. Most of them are over 3,000, and Carmel, in fact, is well over 5,000 kids. So here it still has that small community type of feel, even at the school. And maybe you have kids that are in elementary school, or you don't have kids at all. But still, the schools, even if you don't have kids at all, are usually something that people think about, because it does end up affecting your value some and desirability. Not that homes in undesirable school districts don't sell. They certainly do, because sometimes it's just not a thing that people are concerned about. But a lot of people are concerned about it. So they are highly rated here and still have that small feel. But what I like about Franklin and the size of the school is that it's not so small to where you don't have a whole lot of variety or opportunity. Yet it's not so big to where it gets crazy competitive and you kind of have to be elite to really do much of anything, whether you're in band or show choir or baseball or volleyball, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, you probably have an opportunity to participate in some way.
What's up? I'm Jackson.
You guys from Franklin?
Yeah.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'm doing all about Franklin today.
We love strawberries. That's why we're here.
You got the strawberry festival, yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's good.
Hey, I love you, Mom.
See you guys. And that last one, not the last one, but at least the next positive one, I'd say, at least to most, is that I'd say one of the concerns, especially if you're coming from a bigger city or a bigger metro, is that when you get into a small city or a small town, the concern is, does it have everything that I need? And I don't know what you need precisely on a daily basis, but if you need a Lowe's, if you need a Walmart, if you need grocery stores, if you need your typical fast food chains that you're going to find across the country, like a Wendy's or McDonald's, all that kind of stuff, it has all of those things. And in some cases, well over one of those things. Plus, it has a lot of mom and pop shops. It has unique things that you're gonna find only in Franklin. Or in some cases, you might find sprinkled in very small amounts somewhere across Indianapolis or one of the other cities around Indianapolis, but includes Franklin as well. So maybe it has 2 locations or 3 locations, but it's still a very local type of business. So there are lots of things that people need day to day. So something that you need before work, something you need after work, or something that you need during work. And it's probably going to have all of those things. So that's certainly something that Franklin is large enough to have all those things. I think if you were moving to a town that is 1,000 people or 500 people or 1,500, something like that, that's where you can start running into that problem where you got to think about, what do I need before I go home this evening? Because it's going to be 30 or 45 minutes a drive one way to get whatever it is that I might need. So I got to stop by the grocery store before I go home because I know I'm not going to go back out on the weekend because it's just too much trouble. It's not going to be like that in Franklin. It's small enough to have all of those things that we're talking about really in this video, but it's large enough to still have all those little things that you're going to need on a daily basis. So here's that last point that could be a positive, could be a negative, depending on what your attitude is about living anywhere. And I tell this to a lot of people living in really specific places around Indianapolis Metro. So I would say this about Franklin, because I think it's far enough out from Indianapolis, even though the proximity is still reasonable, but reasonable is a definition that isn't the same for everybody. If you live in Franklin, you are going to live in Franklin. So you might live in a place like Franklin, or let's say another city or town relatively far outside of Indianapolis, although again, this one's not too bad, but even 35, 40, 45 minutes, that could be a reasonable commute for you for work. I would say maybe you don't want to do that every single day because it's not going to be consistent. You can have some traffic, it can increase a little bit here and there, but you probably aren't going to leave Franklin as much as you think you will. You won't go to Indianapolis just for an hour or 2 hours. Not that you would necessarily have to do that all the time, but it's going to at least play into your decision. You're gonna think, maybe we should go to this place, but it's a 45 or 50-minute drive. I don't know if it's really worth doing it or not. You could be different, but I know that in my way of thinking about places, that's gonna factor in. Do we have time to do it? Do I wanna go through the trouble of even doing it? So there's some points about Franklin and why you might wanna consider it, or even some things about maybe you wouldn't wanna consider it. So if you have questions about Franklin or any of the cities and towns that surround Indianapolis, make sure you reach out any way that you know how. We can also show you our Living In framework, which is our relocation process, the step-by-step things, the framework of how that can actually run and organize you, and then also our exploration app. Franklin's included in our exploration app. So if you wanted to get to know Franklin in our app, we'll tell you exactly where you need to go and visit, just so you know those places are there, but also to help you get to know the vibe of it, the personality of it, and see if it's a fit for you or not. When you go to those locations, you can also figure out if you like those particular parts of a place like Franklin and see if those are a fit for you. So questions about that, make sure you reach out, and we'll catch you in the next one.